All right, guys, here we are. No Rain, No Rainbows podcast. Can you feel that? The wind in your hair? Yeah, we're flying right now. This is officially the jump. We've taken that leap. We're getting things started. And the first thing I want to do, if you're hearing my voice right now, I just want to say thank you. I'm not sure if you could hear it in my voice. Oddly enough, I'm nervous because we're taking a jump. This is the first time I'm recording a podcast, the No Rain, No Rainbows podcast. And the fact that you're listening, you're giving me your time. I know how important that is. So the fact that you're listening right now, I want to acknowledge you for that and say thank you. And I hope to provide you value. Clearly, if you're listening, you're hoping to get something out of this, and I'm hoping that I can give that to you. Probably your first question is, okay, Ted, what is No Rain, No Rainbows? What is this podcast all about? Well, to sum it up in one word, I'd say it's about life. No Rain, No Rainbows has been my life motto for quite some time. And in essence, it just means in order to get to the rainbows, the fulfillment you want in life, we're going to have to go through some things. And those are our storms. And the storms will pass. And when they do, we'll get our rainbow. But of course, you can't get that sunshine without a little bit of rain. Aside from life, to give you more details on what this podcast is going to be about, I want to talk a lot about self-development. I also want to talk a lot about relationships, business, health. And when I say health, I mean in terms of mental health, physical health, spiritual health. All those things are very important when we talk about fulfillment. Finances, something else we need to pay attention to. I want to talk about overall fulfillment in your everyday lives. I want you to be happy, and I want to find out personally, selfishly, how to be happy myself every single day when I wake up. And at the end of the day, I also want to talk about a subject that's been on my mind for quite some time, for the past 6 months to a year. And that subject is what it means to be a man in today's society. And I don't want to put this podcast in a niche in terms of just for men, because I think defining the modern man helps women just as much. So if you are a female and you are listening to this, I think you can get value in that topic as well. So I am in no way, shape, or form an expert in any one of these areas. I'm not trying to pretend to be, and I'm not trying to be something I'm not. What I am trying to do is I'm trying to learn more about all of these areas. And as I try to learn more and trying to talk to people and have these questions put out there, I'd love you to listen in and join me on this journey as I try and find these answers. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to talk to experts. We're going to talk to novices. We're going to talk to students. We're going to talk to everybody we can about these different topics, because I genuinely feel that we can learn something from anybody and everybody. Now, I always say this quote: experts built the Titanic, but beginners built Apple. Beginners built Microsoft. You don't have to be an expert to be great. Sometimes you just have to start. We're starting this podcast, so we want to talk to everybody and not judge somebody on their current status in a certain field, because whatever their perspective is, I guarantee we can get value from that. Even further, the goal of this podcast is to facilitate growth. Whatever you're battling in your personal life, if it happens to be a topic that you resonate with on this podcast, I hope that it can help you through whatever your tough times are. So again, if you are looking for growth, if you are looking for fulfillment, if you are looking to be better tomorrow than you are today, I think this podcast can bring you value. Now, I also want to talk about the audacity to be wrong. A lot of times we get nervous about going back on what we were thinking or changing our mind on things. I want to be clear. We can change our mind about things. We can change our mind about topics. And I'd like to have the audacity to be wrong in this podcast, because at the end of the day, I really would like to elevate and expand my perspective on things. And that's the only way we can grow. We can be different day in and day out based on the things that we are exposed to. So if it's okay with you, I'd like to really have an open mind while listening to this podcast and going through this podcast, because I honestly think we can either elevate, maybe expand, or see a different perspective, see a world through someone else's eyes. And that can only make our perspective better in the long run. So who am I? The voice you're hearing right now. Why am I hosting this? Why should you listen to me? I'm nobody special. My backstory, really quick, I'm from New York, Long Island, New York. I was born and raised in Brentwood. I went to Catholic school my whole entire life, and to be honest, I worked hard to try and find where I fit in life. I went to a predominantly white school, and I was one of a few black kids in that school. And it was hard for me because I wasn't your typical, stereotypical black that you would think. And I say that not to offend anybody, but I just say that to say I had identity issues growing up, if you would. And I haven't said that much, so here's an outlet for me to be a little bit vulnerable with you guys in terms of saying that it took me a while to find out who I was. And in my everyday interactions with other people, I think one of my main priorities is making somebody feel comfortable within their skin because I spent so long not feeling comfortable within mine. After high school, I went to college in SUNY Albany, upstate New York. And I'll be honest, I started out in computer science and it wasn't for me. I was doing terrible in school. I had a 1.9 GPA. That's the first time I'm saying this being recorded. Mom, Dad, I'm sorry. But yeah, after 1 year in school, it just wasn't working. After going on vacation with some friends, we spoke about the weather. We spoke about a bird. I remember I saw a bird dive into the ocean, and I started talking to my friends about the tide and the sun. And they asked me, they said, how do you know all this stuff? And I said, I was always good at it. So I started studying weather. And that was a big turning point for me because broadcast meteorology ended up being my major, ended up being what I graduated with. And it really ended up being the vehicle that I've used to get to where I am today. But it didn't happen right away. After I graduated college, anyone that graduated from 2008 to 2010 probably knows how volatile the work industry was, and finding a job wasn't necessarily easy. I worked at a law firm for 2.5 to 3 years, and those were some dark times for me. I wasn't fulfilled at work. I wasn't made for a 9 to 5, a cubicle with no internet connection for 8+ hours a day, just simply putting data entry in. And after about a year of working there, I really kind of took on some self-destructive habits. Wasn't eating right, wasn't really working out that much, and it took a toll on me. It took a toll on my body, and I ended up having some medical issues that put me in the hospital for about 2 weeks. And all this came crashing down in 2013. And I remember being in the hospital. It was in November, right before Christmas. I was in the hospital into December, and I had a mind shift. I had to change what I was doing. So what I ended up deciding was taking control of my life and really kind of taking responsibility over my life. I used to blame everyone and everything for my position, for the reason I wasn't working the job I wanted to work, for the reason I was still living at home with my parents, and for the reason I wasn't making the money I wanted to make. So all those issues I had in my life, I blamed everyone except for myself. And what happened when I got out of the hospital was I had a mind shift change. I had a change in terms of wanting to take control of what it is I was going to do with my life. I remember driving down the same road I've driven hundreds of times after the hospital, but after not seeing it for 2 weeks, it looked a little different. And lo and behold, after about a month and a half of getting out of the hospital, I was on top of a mountain snowboarding with my friends, bouncing back quickly. And then within a year after that, I would accept my dream job, really. I would accept an opportunity in Saginaw, Michigan, which would start me out as a meteorologist trainee. I had 1 year, a 1-year contract to really show what I had, show what I got, and work to become a meteorologist, a broadcast meteorologist, which was the major I graduated with. Within 9 months, a job opened up in Greenville, South Carolina, and I jumped at it. And to be honest, when I told my boss, let's go for it, I had no idea where Greenville, South Carolina was, but I was just willing to jump out of the plane and really build my parachute on the way down and figure it out later. And it's been great ever since. I've been in Greenville, South Carolina for over 4.5 years. Love it here. I've made a lot of great connections. I've met a lot of good people. And most importantly, I continue to grow with those connections and the people that I've built relationships with. So growth here is going to be a common topic on No Rain, No Rainbows, because each and every single day, the goal is to get better just by 1%. And if you do that each and every day, you're 365% better at the end of the year. So here I am now. I'm excited to talk about the future. I'm excited to see what is to come in the days ahead. And by no way do I feel as if my storms are completely gone. I'm sure there's going to be more storms in the future. There's always storms to come. But what keeps me motivated is the fact that there are rainbows at the opposite side of every storm we go through. Let's do this together. Let's grow together. Let's learn together. Let's get this going and continue to be better day in and day out. The podcast that you're listening to right now is not simply the work of my own hands. It's a team effort here. Andre Settles with Subtle Solution is the man that's really helped me with this. Charles Russ has been a mentor to me and really kind of helped giving me the confidence to stand in front of this mic, sit in front of this mic, and share this story with you. And there are countless others that I don't even have time to name that are a part of my life that continue to believe in me, to invest in me, to bet on me. And because of that, I'm able to talk to you right now. So this is No Rain, No Rainbows. I hope you enjoy the podcast. Let's grow.